But if I told you that most people you meet aren't showing you who they are, they're showing you who they want you to believe they are. A performative personality is a mask, a carefully constructed image designed to gain approval, attention, validation, status, or control. Some perform strength while secretly feeling weak. Some perform kindness while hiding resentment. Some perform confidence while battling insecurity. And some perform victimhood because it protects them from accountability. The system rewards performance. Social media often rewards performance. So people become actors in a play they never consciously agreed to join. But every performance comes with a cost. The longer you wear a mask, the harder it becomes to remember your real face. The more energy you spend managing appearances, the less energy you have for growth. That's why so many people feel exhausted, anxious, disconnected, and lost. They're maintaining a character instead of living a life. The question isn't whether you've encountered performative people. The question is, where are you performing? Where have you traded authenticity for acceptance? Because freedom begins the moment you stop asking, how do I appear? And start asking, who am I when nobody is watching? That's when the mask falls. That's when the performance ends. And that's when real growth begins.
Performative culture is destroying our youth. It promotes emotional reaction over rational thought. What if one of the greatest threats facing our youth today isn't poverty, politics, or technology? What if the real threat is something much more subtle? What if the threat is a culture that rewards appearances more than substance? A culture that teaches young people how to look successful before they've actually become successful. A culture that teaches them how to appear intelligent before becoming knowledgeable. A culture that teaches them how to appear virtuous before developing character. A culture that teaches them how to perform confidence while secretly feeling insecure. Today, I want to talk about performative culture, not because I think everybody is trapped in it, not because I think social media is inherently evil, and certainly not because I think previous generations had everything figured out. More so because I believe we are creating incentives that encourage young people to focus on perception instead of reality, and that comes with its consequences. What is performative culture? Performative culture is a culture where looking becomes more important than being, where signaling becomes more important than substance, where appearance becomes more valuable than achievement, where the performance becomes more important than the person. For much of human history, reputation was largely built through direct experience. People knew you because they worked with you, lived near you, went to school with you, saw how you behaved over time. Today, most of my life, honestly, many people are growing up in an environment where image can be carefully manufactured. A person can appear wealthy without being wealthy. A person can appear happy without being happy. Can appear confident without actually being confident. A person can appear successful without accomplishing much at all. When appearances become easier to create, distinguishing reality from performance becomes increasingly difficult. The problem isn't that people present themselves positively. The problem occurs when presentation replaces development, when image replaces growth, when performance replaces character. And young people are paying attention. They see what society rewards. They see what gets attention. They see what gets likes, they see what gets views, and often they conclude that appearing impressive matters more than becoming impressive. That is a dangerous lesson because real growth takes time. Real confidence takes time. Real wisdom takes time. Real discipline takes time. There are no shortcuts. But performative culture constantly offers shortcuts. It tells people they can skip the process and move directly to the appearance of success, and many people accept this offer. Why spend years mastering a skill when you can simply create the image of expertise? Why spend years of building wealth when you can create the appearance of wealth? Why spend years developing character when you can simply create the appearance of virtue? This mindset slowly reshapes priorities. The focus shifts away from becoming. The focus shifts towards appearing. And that shift affects nearly every aspect of life. Let's talk about identity. Many young people today are struggling with identity. Why? Part of the reason is that they are constantly exposed to performances. Everywhere they look, people are presenting curated versions of themselves. The highlight reel, the filtered version, the carefully edited version, the marketable version. When young people compare their ordinary lives to someone else's performance, they often feel inadequate. They begin believing they are falling behind. They begin believing everyone else has life figured out. They begin believing they are the problem. But what they are often comparing themselves against isn't reality. It's branding. And branding is not reality. The consequences can be severe. Anxiety, depression, low self-worth, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of authenticity, fear of being seen as imperfect, because performative culture sends a dangerous message. Your value depends on how others perceive you. Think about how destructive that belief is. If your value depends entirely on external approval, you become emotionally dependent on strangers. Your confidence rises and falls based on opinions. Your self-worth rises and falls based on reactions. Your identity rises and falls based on validation. That's not freedom. That's emotional captivity. Now let's discuss something even deeper. Performative culture affects morality. Increasingly, many people feel the pressure to publicly display their beliefs, to signal the correct opinions, to demonstrate their virtue, to prove they belong. Again, the issue isn't having values. Values matter. The issue is when public signaling becomes more important than private behavior. Character is what you do when no one is watching. Performance is what you do when everybody's watching. A healthy society prioritizes character. A performative society prioritizes visibility. Young people notice this contradiction. A lot of us are walking contradictions, and I'm not saying that to imply I'm perfect, because I have things to work on too. I'm just saying we need to do and be better. But our youth sees people saying one thing and doing another. They see public virtue paired with private misconduct. They see image management replacing accountability, and over time, cynicism develops, trust declines, respect declines, authenticity declines. Now, some people will say every generation complains about the next generation. While that's true, every generation does, but that doesn't mean every concern is invalid. It doesn't mean we can't try to correct ourselves. The challenge isn't that young people are uniquely flawed. The challenge is that modern technology amplifies certain weaknesses that have always existed. Human beings have always wanted status. Human beings have always wanted attention. Human beings have always wanted approval. Today's technology simply delivers those rewards faster and at a greater scale. A teenager can receive more social feedback in a single day than previous generations received in months, and that changes behavior. When attention becomes a measurable currency, people naturally begin to optimize for that attention. And unfortunately, attention is not always aligned with truth. Attention is not always aligned with wisdom. Attention is not always aligned with character. Sometimes attention rewards outrage. Sometimes attention rewards division. Sometimes attention rewards a spectacle. And young minds are highly sensitive to incentives. So What should we do? How do we create a brighter future? First, we need to teach young people the difference between image and reality. Teach them that confidence is built through competence. Teach them that success is built through effort. Teach them that respect is earned through character. Teach them that the meaningful achievement takes time. The more they understand this, the less vulnerable they become to illusion. Second, we need to celebrate builders more than performers. Celebrate people who create, people who solve problems, people who contribute, people who develop skills, people who improve communities, not just people who attract attention. Attention alone should not be our highest currency. Contribution should be. Third, we need to normalize imperfection. Young people should understand that mistakes are part of growth. Failure is part of growth. Awkwardness is part of growth. Nobody becomes exceptional without first being average. Nobody becomes skilled without first being unskilled. Nobody becomes wise without first making mistakes. When perfection becomes the standard, growth becomes impossible. Fourth, we need stronger families and mentors. Technology is powerful, but guidance is more powerful. Young people need examples of integrity, examples of discipline, examples of resilience, examples of authenticity, examples of people who live according to principles instead of trends. No algorithm can replace that. Fifth, we need to teach emotional resilience. Life would not always provide validation. Sometimes you will be criticized. Sometimes you'll be misunderstood. Sometimes you'll fail. The goal is not to avoid discomfort. The goal is to develop the strength necessary to handle it. A resilient young person is far less vulnerable to performative pressures. And finally, we need to encourage purpose. Purpose changes everything. A person with purpose is less obsessed with appearances. A person with purpose has somewhere to direct their energy, a mission, a goal, a responsibility, a contribution. Purpose shifts attention away from self-promotion and towards meaningful action. And that is what is desperately needed. I want to end with this thought. I don't believe our youth are doomed. I don't believe the future is hopeless. In fact, I believe many young people are hungry for something real. They're tired of fake. They're tired of superficiality. They're tired of image management. They are tired of pretending. They want authenticity. They want meaning. They want purpose. They want the truth. The question is whether the adults around them are willing to model those things, because culture is taught. Not just through words, but through behavior. If we want a better life, we must become examples of the future we want to create. Less performance, more substance. Less image and more character. Less signaling and more contribution. Because a civilization cannot thrive when appearance constantly outrakes reality. But it can thrive when people commit themselves to growth, truth, character, and purpose. And if we can teach that lesson to the next generation, then the future may be brighter than we think. I am your stepdaddy, but that's Mr. Stepdaddy to you. Thanks for watching. Peace and love.
Life without limits. Life without limits. Hey. Life without limits. Hey. Life without limits. Life without limits. Worldwide.